Grateful to be here on another Wednesday, giving back to the community, sharing wisdom, doing all the things that we do, answering some Q&A, which we'll get to in just a little bit. But today, really excited because what we're going to be talking about is I get a lot of these questions. I get a lot of variations of the following question. Hey, Dominique, what type of certification or designation should I start seeking? Or should I do CFP? Should I do ChFC? Should I do CPA, CFA, MBA, all these different things. And I want to, come on today and say, hey, this is what I would do if I was starting from scratch today. So I think it'll be a really interesting conversation. Hey, what's going on, Severine? Thanks for the love. I'm glad you're listening with us. Hopefully this will be helpful for you. And so, yeah, I think just having the conversation and letting you see my thought process, if I were in the shoes of a financial professional that's either aspiring or current, but thinking about how to deepen their knowledge in regards to the traditional or the non-traditional path. And we talk about that a lot, right? Being a financial advisor that's, going to broach the subject of investment advice, or if you're going to be more non-traditional, kind of like a financial coach, if you will, and you don't touch the investment stuff. So hopefully you guys got plenty of questions. I would love to see them, love to answer them during this. Today's a little different in that I'm not going to necessarily go by an outline. I usually kind of memorize what I want to talk about from an outline standpoint. However, today I just want to kind of make it an open conversation and just kind of start with some things that I would be thinking about, right? So let's say, actually, let me give you just a brief my history so you can have some context. So my history is 1998, I started working at a hedge fund in the back office, did that for about 8 years, took about an 18-month hiatus, did real estate, and then came back into the financial services industry as a facing client advisor. This is somewhere around 2008, 9-ish. And so I just got license, life and health, 766, all that kind of stuff. And then that broker dealer went kind of defunct or whatever. And I ended up at an RIA where I really started to learn more about financial services. So I left the RIA in 2016 and started my own firm. And that's where I've been since then. So I didn't pursue CFP in advanced degrees until 2012, 2013. And so when a lot of people come to me immediately, and I'm just giving you this perspective straight up, like a lot of people come to me immediately and they want to do the education. And I totally get that. It makes you feel good. It allows you to kind of, not practice while getting education and things of that nature. However, what I would say is that path is not always the best path, because you may end up just educating yourself ad nauseum and forever and never get the practicality of that. So I'm going to paint my advice today in that regard. Okay. So what I would say is, this is what happens when you're doing a live stream. My dog is at the groomer and my son needs to go pick him up. Hold on just a second here. Let me text my son. Cue the Jeopardy music. Okay. All right. So what I would like to say is if you are deciding this at first, I think you need to first start with what I call is starting with your why. You got to start with your why. And why do you do this? Because not only because it's going to be a hard path and there's going to be adversity and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I get it. All that's going to happen. And yes, you do need to know your why before before you get into that. However, what I would say is the why really helps you center around like who you want to help and how you want to help them, right? So the who you want to help, you may not have a good indication of that unless you started to think about why you want to do this, which is going to inevitably lead you to shadowing somebody, finding a mentor, looking for a coach, looking at people that are doing this in the industry and trying to get a perspective from them that will give you more color on what you're trying to get into. Let me say that again. So start with your why, because that's going to lead to the who. Okay. Now, after you get your who, you get your, let's call it your avatar of who you want to be like, right? in the industry, or a couple of people, right? You have a couple of conversations because you don't know yet, is going to start to help you see how you would help that person. Now, remember, this industry, as great as it is, it's only about two things. And I'm just going to be really, really, really breaking it down to you today. It's about cheeks in the seat, right? You got to have clients to serve. Otherwise, there's no financial plans to crunch. There's no software to buy. There's nothing to do because you have no clients. So you got to have that. And you got to keep your clients happy. Those two things, if you do those two well, you could go so far in this industry, right? You can always hire somebody to do your bookkeeping or client, opening accounts and things of that nature. You can always hire somebody to do that, because if you do those other two things really well, you're going to be golden. All right. So zooming out again, what I would say is once you decide your why and that leads you to who, how you start to serve clients and what your, let's call it service offerings start to look like. That's going to change, right? And some of that we're going to go into a little bit later. I'm going to give you guys not necessarily a sneak preview, but I'm going to pull some stuff out of my course, one of the logic maps, and kind of show you how this works, whether you want an investment focus, whether you want, income protection / asset protection. I'm sorry, income, asset protection, estate, tax, yada, yada, yada. So we'll go through that in just a second. So hang with me. But here's the point. How you serve your clients and what they need, whether it's comprehensive financial planning, whether it's coaching, whether it's budgeting, whether it's credit repair, whether it's insurance, all those kind of things. Like, you're not going to know that unless you start to get some type of experience or shadow somebody that's already in the industry, right? So I think that's a great exercise to do before you just start taking up CFP classes. I love CFP. I am a CFP. However, it's cart before the horse. Now, granted, I will say this as a caveat. If you have the time and money margin to do the CFP, for instance, you got a job, you're working, and then you're doing your CFP with another 15 or 20 hours a week that you're stacking on top of that, and you're just going through the curriculum to kind of learn the process, that's okay. That's okay. I would say you can learn by, actually, getting a job too, but that's neither here nor there on this particular, that's outside the scope of what we're talking about. But like, if I was starting today, I would definitely start with the why exercise, which is going to lead me to who, and then it's going to lead me to the type of client that I want to serve, right? And I think that's a real good starting point. Now, let's talk about some other things here. So when we're talking about either path, right, like financial advisors, right? We got this whole thing around financial advisors that the Securities Act of 1940 basically governs, which says that if you're going to do investment advice, if you're going to give investment advice, if you're going to charge for it, you got to be licensed, right? So at a bare minimum, you got your 7, your 66, or your 6 and 63, your SIE. I'm not really talking about that. That's table stakes. You got to do that anyways. But once you get in the industry, right, just staying with the traditional path, there's several different ways you can go, right? Do you want to really focus on the whole enchilada of financial planning, right? The CFP is going to take you down a pretty good curriculum. A close second, in my opinion, would be the Chartered Financial Consultant, ChFC. Doesn't have the comprehensive exam versus the CFP having the comprehensive exam. And you can, side by side those curriculums if you want to. But here's the point. That gives you a really broad overview of how you can help people, right? The CFP curriculum will do the following for you. It's going to take you far enough down the rabbit hole to not like overwhelm you, like say, for instance, like a CFA with investments and stuff. You'll go deep enough around the subject to be a content expert when you're facing a client, right? And what I like also is that you're going to tie each element of their financial life together too. Now, granted, in exchange for that knowledge, you're going to pay about 4 figures, on average about $5,000, and you're going to give up about 12 to 18 months of your life. Now, if I was starting over again, I would probably do that first. Now, a lot of people, you don't know this, but I did my master's degree. I have a master's in finance. And while I was doing that, I was studying for the CFA. I failed the CFA level 1, and I paused and finished my master's, and I was evaluating programs. and the CFP came up. Now, I had some people in the job that I was in at that point in time that were doing the CPWA, which I'll talk about in just a second, maybe, the Certified Private Wealth Advisor, Investment Management Institute, I think, offers that. And it was very similar. I just didn't like the fact that it didn't have a comprehensive exam. It's because I'm just a nerd like that. I feel like I need to check the box of comprehensive exam after I do all that. So that's why I chose CFP, and for some other reasons. So all that to say, the CFP and some of those other sister organizations or designations rather, give you that depth that a lot of you are looking for when it comes to, okay, Dominique, I'm going to be sitting down with clients. I'm going to be talking to, Bob and Mary Smith that make $250 a year, have $150,000 in debt. They have 2 kids. They got a mortgage. They need to plan for college. They need to plan for retirement. They got employee benefits. They have investment stuff. He has RSU. Like that CFP will help you do that. So if you want to deal with those type of people, by all means, that's probably where you want to go. And that's probably what I would do too. If we're talking about what I would do all over again. Now, this is something I wouldn't change that is going to scare some of you, possibly. I would not change the fact that I waited 15 years into my career before I did CFP. I'm going to tell you the reasons why, and then we'll go into the logic maps, and then we'll open up the lines for questions, because I'm just about done with the reason why and stuff. So the benefit of having all the experience I had when I started the CFP is manyfold, but let me just give you kind of like the top 2-3 reasons. The first reason is, since I was working and my job was giving investment advice, my employer's incentive to help me through that program financially and subsidize some of it was extremely high. I was going to be a better financial advisor by having the CFP working with him. So going through that curriculum, that was only going to make me better at what I did. And so that was a win-win. So like, I strongly recommend that you either negotiate with your employer or be thinking about this ahead of time, because your employer does want more revenue to the bottom line, period, in the story. And if you can do that and be more productive at your job, whether you have CFP or not, that's always going to be your benefit. I would largely say that you're going to be a better advisor with having the CFP versus not. Okay. So that's number 1. Number 2 is, by the time I had gotten to year 14, 15 in here, I knew the type of client I wanted to deal with. I knew who I liked to deal with. And I knew that the CFP was a better fit for what I was trying to do with those clients. Like whether I wanted to stay at that firm or whether I wanted to go on my own, like all that kind of stuff kind of played into that decision for me. Okay. And I think you have to do the same thing, right? Like, who you like to serve, who you want to, deal with. And if you don't, you need to do more work. You definitely need to do that work before you go write a check to any CFP program. I don't think that's a good investment of your money if you don't know that yet, because I've talked to so many different people that have, thought CFP was going to be like kind of the holy grail, or any designation for that matter. I'm harping on CFP, but the point is people think that the designation or the letters are going to be what brings clients to them, or, denotes their success, or, is a marker for their success. And that's just not true. You need to really start with the planning process from a professional development standpoint, and find out where these advanced designations and or degrees fit into that path. Okay. So let me share something with you guys real quick. I think we've kind of beat the horse on whether or not you want a degree. I want to dive into the designations. Whoever's looking at this, maybe you have questions about whether or not you should go back to school or not. I'll just give you the quick cliff notes on whether or not you should go back to school. So let's just say you're under the age of 20 and you're trying to see whether you should go to school, and you want to be a financial advisor, financial professional. If you have the means, financial means, without, incurring a whole lot of debt, and you're under the age of 20, I think it's absolutely a no-brainer that you should go to school. If you can't swing it financially, I would say work and go to school. There are some instances in which you can be successful, obviously, without a degree, but I don't think in today's time and in the way the financial industry is going, that's going to benefit you. So if you're watching this and you're younger than 20 and you're in college, keep going. All right. Now, let's say you're over 20, let's say you're a career changer. Actually, I don't know if he's watching today, if you're watching, Steve, but like, let's say you're on a second career, right? And maybe you have, like, you're a military vet, and then you're going to have some of that stuff subsidized or whatnot, right? Your schooling. So I think you use that money wisely, right? Don't just go write a blank check to, XYZ university for an executive, whatever, If you want to be a financial advisor, if you want to be a financial professional, find programs that align with that. Don't just go grab stuff that you think is going to make you successful. I, as a 20-year vet, can definitively say what will make you successful. It will. If you want to be a financial planner, you need to go, if you haven't gone to school yet, or if you're thinking about going back, go enroll in a financial planning program if you want to go back to school. So Texas Tech, Golden Gate, Kansas State, Utah Valley, all these different places are, places that you can go. Don't go get some executive MBA. Don't go to University of Phoenix. Don't do that. Don't waste your time and money doing that if you really want to do this job. Okay. So that's that. That's if you want to go back to school. Sometimes I would say you don't have to go back to school, especially if you're going to go the CFP route. All you need is the coursework, and then you can go take the exam, then get the experience. You can argue that the 3 years you're going to spend there trying to get the experience is going to be well worth it versus going to sit in a university's classroom, traditional setting, or virtual for that matter. Okay. All right, here we go. Now let's go into the logic maps. Logic maps. Load your questions. Go ahead. We'll get to those shortly. Okay. What was that? Okay, so inside my course, I have a training, I don't know, in one of the modules. But anyways, it's like what I'm trying to get you to think through is the different types of questions, right? So the way this starts, reading from left to right, is am I within the first 3 years of my career? If the answer is yes, then you go to the next question and say, is my current employer going to subsidize any of this? Like, I had my employer negotiate with me on, what I was going to take. And he wrote me a check, a pretty sizable check. Like, he paid half of it. And that was pretty good. So if that's the case, then I go to yes. Then I start to think about, is the job I'm doing now, or the job I'm trying to get into, going to have at least a 50% overlap? The job task that I'm doing every day is going to at least have a 50% overlap with the designation. For instance, I was talking to people, every day about their investment plans and helping them plan. CFP is a really, really good overlap, right? So then the question then becomes, should I pursue it? Yes, I should pursue it, because the rationale behind that is it's going to be great ROI. Even though I'm going to give up some time and I'm going to give up some money, the return on investment for my upward potential earnings is high with all those yeses. Make sense? Okay, cool. So this is the way I would be thinking through that. Okay. Now let's talk about designations per se, right? So I have a whole thing here about designations. And by the way, just a quick plug. If you're like, Dominique, where is this? How do I get this? You can't get this unless you work with me or you're already a student of mine. However, what you can do is you can go here, register for the webinar, and we'll talk about that on Saturday or whenever you can, get to it. Okay. That's how that works. Okay. Let's go back to, let me take that off. That's easy to remember. Everybody remembers that. Jumpstartcoachinglab.com. That's how you do that. Or you just text Jumpstart to 31996 and that'll get you in the loop too. Okay. So which designation should I pursue? This is what probably like why a lot of you wanted to watch today. Okay. Now, do you want to charge for financial advice? And when I say financial advice, this is really a typo. I'm going to have to update this, but it should be investment advice. Do you charge for investment advice per Securities Act of 1940? Yes. Do you like financial planning? Okay. So now you're to the left of this, right? And that means you would have to start to think about all the different aspects depending on what you like. I'm going to walk you through it right quick. Okay. So do you like financial planning? you need to consider the CFP or the ChFC, in my humble opinion. This is my humble opinion, okay? This is not law. This is just what Dominique thinks, okay? So the rationale is time is your biggest factor. You can become a CFP in less time than it takes to earn a business degree, right? Because it's juxtaposed to somebody saying, should I go do an MBA or a master's in finance like me or whatever, right? If you don't like financial planning, but you like creating investment portfolios, then you need to ask the question of, do you want to be client-facing or not? Right? If you don't want to be client-facing, you should probably do CFA. CFA has such a broad array of jobs, from investment banking to corporate finance to portfolio manager, and you don't have to deal with the clients. Now, granted, with the CFA, you're going to give up close to 2 years of your life, passing 3 exams, mostly self-study. It's not easy. So that's a consideration. If you want to client face and you don't like financial planning, but you like in creating investment portfolios, then you need to consider the SEMA or the CPWA. Like, so Certified Investment Management Analyst has sometimes been referred to as the baby CFA, but it's still very reputable. And then the CPWA, which I talked about earlier, and those are the reasons why. So do you see how this is helpful? Because you start just going through this from a question standpoint, asking like yourself, what do you like? But it all starts with that why. Like, why do you want to do this? Then your why leads you to your who, and then your who leads you to your how. Okay. So great stuff. Okay, guys and gals. Okay, there we go. Sorry. Okay, I'm back. Let's talk about questions. Let's answer some questions. Let me go back through here. And thank you guys for joining. Randy and T. Marie and Emmanuel and Pure Mathematics, Jason, Alex, LinkedIn user. I don't know who this is. I'll probably pop over to LinkedIn hopefully in just a little bit. Okay, here we go. All right. Questions. Oh, thank you, Emmanuel. Yes, I try to do my best on content, man. Pure mathematics, MBA is only a year. What do you mean by that, pure mathematics? Maybe you can planning to take the MBA after accounting degree, ACCA. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So some of these I don't go into. Like, for instance, I had a really good friend of mine that I've had on the podcast talk about a coaching, the financial fitness coach. So there's a whole slew of things that I didn't cover here, obviously. So let me just briefly touch on that. Let's just say you don't want to charge for financial advice, right? And I'm not going to get into all the nuances on the non-traditional path. Let's just talk about a couple, right? So you got accredited AFC, accredited financial counselor. I think I'm saying that right. That is offered by the AFCPE. And their curriculum is listed. You can just go to afcpe.org, I believe it is. And you can kind of look through that. And I would always recommend comparing these side by side so that when you're, kind of looking at, curriculum and all this other kind of stuff, that it makes sense to you. But anyways, you're going to, in this particular designation, you're going to be really adept at planning, almost like a CFP, but just not as intense. If you compare those CFP, AFC curriculum and tasks, the CFP is way more in depth, right? But you'll be able to take someone through a financial plan and create the financial plan for them. And obviously, you're not going to be doing the investment part as a financial coach. I use that term very loosely here because financial coaching is not just a job title; it's other things. Now, what I was told earlier, the FFC, the financial fitness coach, if you are very predisposed towards helping people with behavioral change, right? So let me tease this out just a second, just to kind of give some context to this question, or to this answer, really. So often what I find out, in a lot of my peers, they find out that you can put together this great plan from A to Z, soup to nuts, the whole deal. Clients like, yeah, this is great, man. I'm so happy I work with you. They paid you. And you get into month 1 or month 2, and you're like, so how are you doing on that goal of, XYZ that we talked about? Oh, yeah, I haven't gotten around to it. I'm going to get to it though. Yeah. We'll do it. And then you have another one of those conversations, And then what you're noticing is they're not changing their behaviors. Like, the plan sounds great. There's nothing wrong with your plan. It's up here with the client. And so from what I understand in the talks I've had, I don't have this designation. I'm getting this secondhand, but it's from somebody I trust. The FFC is going to help you put in place the things to affect their behavior, help with behavioral change. And this is really the essence of coaching, actually. And when you're talking about the financial advice continuum, as humans, I'm included, like we have problems sometimes when we see the benefit of things and we just don't have the right incentives or motivation to go after that thing, and money is going to be one of those things. So this is a designation that would definitely help you with that. You can definitely read more about it if you're interested in that. So that's what I would say about the coaching side of this paradigm that I just brought up. And there's tax and insurance and all kinds of stuff. We'd be here all night if I went into all that. Jason says, I'm currently enrolled in Howard University CFP program through Dalton. It's only 9 months. It's awesome. Yeah. The curriculum, the classes that you take, I guess there's 6 of them. It will typically take you about 9 months. And then after you do that, you'll do the capstone. They'll ask you to prepare a case if that's still what they do. And then you will take the test and pass on the first time. It took me about 3 months to study. I did the guaranteed to pass, enrolled in August 2016 and sat for my exam in November 2016. So you can do the same. So that's about 12 months. So that's what I said, 12 to 18 months. 18 months if you don't pass on the first try, obviously. Alex says, hey, Dominic, I'm debating between CFP and PFP. I just noticed that the CFP charges $470 every year to renew. I was like, what? Yeah, that's kind of like par for the course, actually. A lot of these designations have membership fees and dues, and that's just that's the price you pay to play. It is what it is. So they gotta fund that advertising budget that got you to get into the program in the first place, right? I'm not familiar with PFP. If you don't mind, let me look it up real quick. Let me Google it. Power of the internet and technology during a live stream. PFP designation. Personal financial planning offered by the AACPA. Okay, so this is an accounting organization. They also have the PFS that I think you can't have unless you have a CPA. I haven't dug into it, Alex, to be honest. So I couldn't really speak to it. What I would say is you probably want to hold that up side by side to the CFP. $500 a year for the. So here's another thing about CFP. They by far of all these designations have been the best at their marketing campaign and public awareness, like hands down, like not even a close second at all. And so the consumers of financial services that you're going to be marketing to, or at least saying, hey, here's how I can help you. Those are the people that, like, for them to know about your designation, that's pretty good. I'm not really a big designation guy, to be honest. I kind of think that people don't care about designations. They care about how you can help them. If you have a designation, that's gravy. Obviously, there's a level of competency that in a signal that you send by getting it. But at the end of the day, this is a relationship game. This is a human to human game. People want to know that you can hear them, listen to them, help them articulate their goals, and move the needle for them. That's it. End of story. So yeah, I think you just got to pony up. You're going to find that the $500 is probably a worthwhile investment, given that the PFP is, and it actually looks like is this strictly Canadian? I don't know. I'm scrolling as I'm talking, so I don't really know. Okay, let's move on. Randy says, how can we become you misspelled this, man, and I'm trying to do this, become an advisor and stay self-employed. So I guess the question is, how do you become an advisor and be self-employed? Actually, the bar is pretty low right now. I think I've gone through this a couple of times, but so in the state of Texas, and in most states, for that matter, but I know the state of Texas because that's where my LLC and my RIA is registered. You could have a CFP, CFP, CFA, and I believe it's ChFC. Check me on that last one. It may be ChFC or CPA. I can't remember what the one it is, but it's one of those three. It's those three designations or a Series 65. And then you can open up your LLC and start an RIA. Then you're self-employed. Now, what I would argue is, do you have self-employment skills? Because running a business is totally different than giving financial advice. There's some overlap with skill sets, with maybe just perseverance and determination and grit. But aside from that, if you don't know how to run a business, I would definitely not advise starting from scratch if you have no experience. Although the bar is pretty low as to how you get in. Like Series 65, and you can open up your firm. To me, that's a low bar. That's just Dominique's opinion. But that's how you would do it, right? Now, would I do it? This depends on how much experience you have and whether or not you are good at marketing. Are you good at personal branding? Are you good at convincing people of what they need, even if they don't see it themselves? Might be a good candidate for, being self-employed. Thank you. I love this flowchart. It makes the next steps with designations very clear. Cool. Jason, I'm trying to grow my sports and entertainment division of my practice. The NFLPA requires advisors to have I have a soft spot for athletes myself, Jason, because it's just there's been so many undocumented stories of 30 for 30 gone broke type of stuff that is just ridiculous. And the financial services industry has, there's more than one complicit parties in that whole debacle with the sports. But what I would say is I'm glad that the NFLPA, I think this has been 3 years now or so, they're now requiring a higher standard, a higher bar for people to work with their athletes. And that's great because athletes need help. Actually, I would argue that they need as much or more help because they have a very limited as far as earnings are concerned. Like the average life of an athlete in their sports career earning what they're earning is relatively low compared to somebody that works 30 or 40 years in corporate America or something like that. So the level of transition, the saving strategies, the investment, all that kind of stuff is incumbent upon the financial advisor or financial professional to really help that athlete work through those things, much more than just financial advice, I would argue. So yeah, if you're doing that, I applaud you, man. That's a very, very needed thing, I would say. So that's what I'll say about that. Financial advisor is a cool job. Yep, I would agree. Am I too late to see the flow chart? Yeah. I'll put it up while I'm asking questions. How about that? If you're interested in the flowchart, LinkedIn user, because I can't see your name because I'm not logged into LinkedIn. I'm logged into my platform to do this. You really need to, like I said, text Jumpstart to 31996 so you can learn more about the course that I have that has this flowchart. At one time, I was giving this out for free, but I realize it's too valuable. Like you guys have been getting this stuff from me for a long time. Like you should be writing this down or screenshotting or something like that. Otherwise, show up at the webinar. That's my answer. Okay. So there it is right there. You good? I'm just playing with you. Another thing you should do is hop into my Facebook group. So, I give away stuff like this in my Facebook group all the time. Ask people like Severine or Jason. These are all people in my Facebook group. Okay. I want to see the flowchart, please. I am a bit late. Okay. Everybody's saying that. Go to my Facebook group. Jumpstart to 31996 and you will get an invite. It's a free group. So come to that. What are your top 3 designations for FAs? I don't really have them. I don't like these questions. Reason why I don't like them is because designations don't make you a financial advisor. That's a mic drop. I should just stop and just go home after that. Yeah, financial advisors are individuals. Let me zoom out. Financial professionals are individuals that are servants, first and foremost. You are in this industry because you look to serve. And I've said this before, we as financial professionals have such an integral part in the lives of our clients. It goes beyond finance. Let me give you a real quick example. So I used to work with this guy at a former firm, and He was a millionaire a couple times over. However, his wife died of brain cancer during the relationship, and I just noted that, right? We went through that tough time. He went through that tough time, still giving him financial advice, still having conversations, and I just noticed he had a really great demeanor. And I asked him one time, I'm like, dude, like you've had your fair share of life, like kind of giving you some curveballs. Like, how do you maintain this, this attitude, upbeat attitude? And one of the things that he did a lot of things, but one of the things that he did that really stood out is he drove 1 hour each way in his 70s, by the way, each way from his home every weekend to volunteer at the clinic where his wife was treated before she died. And the takeaway from that, just long story short, is that when a person takes what they believe in, what they value, their belief system, and they overlap that with the resources that they have, time, money, and talent, they get a lot of bang out of life. Tremendous bang, because it's not about the money per se. He had plenty of that, but I've seen people with more than him be totally miserable. So what I'm trying to say is financial professionals help people figure that out. They help them figure out, what do I like? What do I value? What is important to me in life? And some of those things may be pretty, like really easy. Like, I value spending time with my kids, or I value being able to retire early so I can spend time with my parents, a parent that has dementia or something like that. You never know what people's stuff is, but that's your job as a financial advisor. And then you take their resource, mostly money, and you bring that alongside. And the more overlap you have with those two ideals or concepts, the happier the client generally is. And so you don't need a designation to do that. You do need some experience, and you need somebody to help you figure that out. It took me a long time. It took me years to figure that out. But now that I have it and I live it myself, I give it away to my clients. But what I would say is there are designations that are more apt to helping you tease these type of principles out. There's obviously my platform, the Jumpstart community, where I'm talking about this stuff all the time. There's people like George Kinder with life planning that talks about some of these concepts. So I don't really have a top 3 designations, to be honest. I don't. Whatever works for you. I don't really care what you do, but do you do what I just said for clients? That's all. All right, let's move on, because I have to cook dinner for the missus. Okay. Tips for next generation advisors. Would love to hear your thoughts on being an African-American advisor. Good question, Ed. Tips. Get in my Facebook group, subscribe to my YouTube channel, attend the live streams. By the way, these are all things that are free. They just cost you your time. So, because I'm good, like I'm giving you new content all the time. Like, I don't have a definitive resource per se my brain, like, that's why I'm sharing it every Wednesday at 6. But in all seriousness, I would say, tips for next generation advisors: overdevelop your empathy and ability to listen to people. Overdevelop that. Listen to a lot of different perspectives outside of finance. So you can be well-rounded. Thoughts on being an African-American advisor? The industry can do more to be more diverse and accept different perspectives. And I'm doing my hardest. I'm doing my part to try to rectify that with this platform and partnering with other people. So that's what I would say about that. Wow, like a lot of questions, guys. I don't know if I'm gonna get through all these. Okay, do you actually get anything from membership fees besides the tax write-off? Any conference or gifts they send out? Yeah, I think. I'm trying to think. No, for the most part, you get to say you're a CFP. But look, everybody does the same thing. All organizations charge membership fees and dues. Yeah, they got different stuff. They send me stuff all the time. Maybe you can be part of the board, or maybe you can help write. I'm going to be as polite and nice as I can with saying this. If the $500 is an impediment, or you don't feel like you're getting a value from it, don't get the CFP or whatever. Don't get it. Just don't get it. I know plenty of people that are plenty enough successful without CFP. So don't do it. If you don't see value in it, don't do it. Like, I don't go to every conference. I'm pretty anti-conference actually. There's a couple that I go to because I get value out of them and I enjoy the people that attend those conferences alongside with me. And that's it. Like I don't do all the check the box stuff. I'm not a check the box type of person. Okay. Randy laughs. Okay. Yeah, it's Canadian. Yeah, I don't know. Like, so Alex, if you hop into my Facebook group, I actually have some people from Canada. Alex is one person, another Alex, that I'm thinking about that you may want to connect with. It fails me. Maybe he's in Alberta. I can't remember right now where he's from, but you may want to pop in and connect with him. A bit off topic. What are your thoughts as financial advisors of color in a predominantly white world of finance? How would you navigate starting a career bad, the token POC in an investment group and experiencing pushback from white clients that may not see you as a good fit to manage their. Okay. So this question basically centers around, some of the systemic racism issues that we've, kind of ripped the Band-Aid off in the last, 4 weeks that have always been around. But, obviously we've had different incidents to kind of incite that. I'm not going to speak a whole lot on that. I have a definitive stance on which I'm pretty consistent on, in that there needs to be more diversity inside of financial services, not for the reason of just checking the box and calling it diverse, but I, as a person of color, deal better with people of color in most instances. It's almost the analogy that I use is like an African-American woman or a Black woman typically goes to another African-American woman or Black woman to do their hair, right? There's nuances about a woman's hair. That's not to say that they have to exclusively go to an African-American stylist, but they understand them. They understand treatment. They understand all kinds of stuff. And all I'm saying is, like, for the fact of the matter that, Black people, purple people, any person can use financial advice. Like, you'll hear me say that there's less than 1% of the US population that could manage their finance without bias. And that's important because bias can help you make a 6-figure mistake that it'll be hard to recover from. Hopefully it's not late in your plan and you screw things up and then you're eating cat food in retirement. That's an extreme, but stranger things have happened. Here's my point. A person of color is going to be able to relate to a person of color. So we need more people of color inside the industry for the demand, period, end of story, right? So that just makes sense. You're going to get better ideas. You're going to get more people at the table, not just people of color, but just women too, right? I think women make excellent financial professionals, sometimes more than men, just because they're wired to have better EQ. Like, we have to work at it. I have to work at EQ. I still have to work at it after even 23 years of marriage. Okay, so here we go. Thanks, Emmanuel, for your question. Thanks for all your questions, by the way. This makes it easier. Okay. Mr. Henderson, I'm 17 years old, interested in being in the financial field and thinking about starting a website to help people with their finances. I don't know if it'll be effective since I'm 17. Yeah, self-limiting belief is what I call them, SLBs. You can do whatever you want, man. Don't let age be a barrier. I hear people say I'm too old, and you're saying I'm too young. You're never too anything, right? Whatever you want to do, you can do. Go listen to Gary Vee, Crushing It. It's a yellow book with black writing. I think you should definitely listen to that. Yeah, do that. But do whatever you want, man. Obviously, don't give advice obviously don't try to speak about what you don't know. Go get informed. But you can get informed. I know that's not hard to do. Like, just go crush it, man. We love it. I don't know who that is. There's somebody in my Facebook group because I've told you guys this a lot of times. Put your name, allow StreamYard to see your name so I won't have to log into Facebook. It's just too hard to have like 15,000 screens, guys. I know I'm yelling here. I'm preaching to the choir. Okay. Juan says, I want to go to graduate school at the American College for MSFS, Masters. I don't know what that means. Am I shooting myself in the foot for going to graduate school without all the years of experience? What are your thoughts? Start with why, man. I said it at the top. If you didn't catch it, if you weren't here at the beginning, definitely go back and listen to the first 6 minutes of this. Go start with why. Why do you want to do this? Like, I mean, I realize the comfort of, going to school, getting the credentials, but you're not doing any work. Like, you're not experiencing clients. I say this in my webinar. No degree, no certification, no designation is going to prepare you for the first time your client calls you and tells you that their spouse passed. Just doesn't. Sorry, they don't teach that. Or when your spouse or when your client is calling to say they had a divorce, or a kid died, or they lost their job. Like, that's just getting in the weeds and just talking to clients, messing up, asking people for help. That's just what it is. You can't avoid that, with no matter how much school you do. So I'm not going to poo-poo your graduate school idea. I'm just going to tell you, I'm just going to challenge you on, why are you going to graduate school? Is there anybody that you can shadow or mentor to kind of learn a little bit more about the field and get into the field if that's what you really want to do, instead of just going to school? Or do both, go to school and get into the field. Okay, we are servants. Yes, we are. Austin, what was the most surprising thing you've learned in your 20 years in the industry? Austin, come on with that meatball question. Nothing but love, brother. Let me put a pencil in that. Let me end with my most valuable lesson in 20 years. How about that? That makes everybody listen to the end. So do you think only high income earners need the services of financial advisors? Absolutely no. I think everybody needs financial advice. Again, about 1% of the US population. This is just my own guesstimate after doing this for 20 years, but very rarely can people manage their money without bias. And let me put a pin in that for all the people that are the FIRE movement that may be watching this, that are like, I do this on my own all the time. Okay. Comprehensive financial planning is not something the average person can do. This is something the average person definitely cannot do without the help of a professional, because we're trained to do it. And it's not taught in high school or anything. Even if your parents were super good with money and you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad from cover to cover, the stuff that we teach in a master's in finance like I have, or in the CFP curriculum, you're not going to learn that. Like, hands down, I know more than you. Like, we're not arguing that really, though. What we're arguing, though, for the person that thinks that they can do this is, are we limited in scope, and is your expertise siloed? That's the question. And the answer is yes. Like, investing your money at Vanguard at 7 basis points and not paying any fees is one element of a good financial plan. It is. What about your tax strategy? Are you paying more than your fair share? What about maximizing your employer benefits? What about income and asset protection? What about your estate plan, so that you have an efficient and effective disposal of your assets if you have a premature demise, or you stop earning income? There's a lot. I'm only rattled off a couple things, but that's the point. I mean, many people think just because I was a good investor, or I don't pay that much in fees, and this is not all their fault. This is part financial services industry fault, in that we hang out financial advice. I'm going to step on a whole lot of toes here, and I don't really care. The financial advice industry hangs out financial advice as investments advice. And that's just one aspect. It's a very myopic approach, and siloed, and doesn't do justice to what real financial advice is, which is a lot of stuff I named in the last 40 minutes or so. So that's a problem by the inside of the industry, which I'm helping and hoping to change over time. But it's also a miseducation issue from the standpoint of consumers. Okay, so that's kind of my take on that. Guys, I got to run. Really, I have to. I'm sorry. This is fun. I would love to continue this. If I didn't get to your question, why don't you just shoot me a DM on one of the platforms that I'm on, or I'll just look back through. If you're on like LinkedIn, the questions will be there, or if you're on Facebook, the questions will be there. I don't know about YouTube. They sometimes get lost or whatnot. I don't know how that works, but so let me end this with saying, in my 20 years, what I've learned is kind of what I just said, is that the financial advice industry has done a really bang up job on extracting rents from people that would consume financial services, whether that's insurance products, investment advice, blah, 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 blah. We got that part down cold. We can charge you 1% and rake in the fees from that. Got that part down cold. However, We need to do a better job on helping people really change their behavior so that they move the needle on their financial plans, so that we have less people with not enough money when they get to retirement, or not able to live a full life, and they're working their fingers to the bone in the job that they hate, and then they don't have anything to show for it. Like, we got to do a better job on that part. And so that's what Jumpstart Community is all about, guys. So I advise you to get in. You know, that's it for today. Today was fun, guys. Thank you for all the questions. I really appreciate it, but I've got to run. Okay. So I will see you in the Facebook group, or I will see you on the webinar. Let me throw that stuff back up again real quick. So you can go there to register for the webinar. We're doing it this weekend, Saturday at 10 a.m. Central, how to make the leap. So if you're interested in becoming a financial professional, don't know how to get started, think you need mentoring, think you need coaching, think you lack the skills, we're going to talk about all that. So definitely register, and we will see you later. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.